large head you have. I suppose small.
It's tiny. It's a pimple of a head.
Everything.
Barker, his name was. Benjamin Barker.
Until a man of power, his sorrow. A new man was born.
You, sir! Too, sir. Welcome to the grave. I will have vengeance. At last, my arm is complete again.
It's any of Jane's business. Besides, we could try again on this vacation, you know?
Oh, really? What are you saying?
You saved my life.
2 hours.
Oh, Barbara, you are not going to believe what?
That's how long you were gone.
What is going on?
To show you something. Look.
I'm sorry.
No, don't be. You go ahead and look. You have every reason to be excited. Oh! You okay? You okay?
Thanks for stopping. Be sure and tell them Large Marge sent ya.
How much of your superiors explained to you? Only that the three were slain in open ground, their heads severed from their bodies.
Taken by the headless horseman, taken back to hell. He wrote,
there's an empty place in my bones that calls out for something unknown. The fame and praise come year after year, does nothing for these empty tears.
Vincent Malloy is 7 years old. He's always polite and does what he's told. Through his dreams, swept his mad laughter to terrified screams. To escape the madness, he reached for the door, but fell limp and lifeless down on the floor.
I'm Tim Burton. I drew from the very beginning. And then what seemed to happen is as you went through school, you know, teachers say, oh, you shouldn't draw like this, you should draw like that. So by the time kids got about like 10 years old, they could think they couldn't draw. Even if somebody was telling me I couldn't draw, I still liked doing it. I was lucky enough to have a teacher who didn't try to force me to draw a certain way. She encouraged people to sort of, you know, whatever sort of strength they had to kind of go with it and kind of do their own style or do their own spirit of work. And it also was a way of exploring your fantasy life and your, you know, emotional core. So it's always been an important part of my life. Well, I haven't really shown any of this stuff. I never really considered it like art or artwork. Mainly because it was not really meant to be seen, really. I mean, it was all sort of the process I was doing when I was either thinking, sort of the outcast of, and the people were much more of the sort of villainous element to it. That's always been important to me, and I can't seem to get rid of it. When I was an animator at Disney, I was much weirder than I am now at that time. I found that when I wore striped socks, I felt more grounded. It's a very strange, circular dynamic, because I was feeling very crazy or very floaty or whatever, And when I started wearing striped socks, I just felt calmer and more grounded, and so I don't really know what else to say about that one. I'm always amazed at how certain images freak out adults when in fact it was something that was very much a part of probably their childhood and every other. And that's what fairy tales, I always felt, did for me, is that they're quite frightening, abstract stories, and children relate to them because it represents the abstract of life and how how am I going to deal with something I don't really understand, and all these weird, horrible images that are, I think, crucial to childhood, and yet I think people kind of forget, some people forget as they get older. What I was really responded to in movies was German expressionism. There was just something about the dynamics and the shapes, with the shadows and the light and dark and like Fritz Lang and those kind of, or George Méliès, those old films that really captured a spirit and a feeling of like being in a dreamscape or inside of somebody's mind was something that was very strong to me. For something like Alice in Wonderland, I mean, it's not something that I necessarily kept like from as a child saying, I have to make Alice in Wonderland. Although it certainly follows with themes and images. It will have a lot of things in it that I would still use it on a completely personal project. I mean, the kind of fairy tale, fable image, sort of symbolic imagery that, say, something like Scissorhands has for me, but something like Alice has it as well. It's just, it's just a known entity. Same thing with Batman. I wasn't really a comic book hardcore fan. I just really liked that world and that character and those characters in that. So, just something that kind of hidden quality and kind of wanting to hide personality. Obviously something well known, but something felt personal to me. The tools of filmmaking have changed over the years, obviously. I mean, I try to keep the same approach where you try to keep it as hands-on and handmade and homemade as you can. Because I just feel like that is something that I always, I liked having actors and sets and having limitations that you have to deal with. That's what makes it fun. Now, with so much technology at your disposal, it can get a bit overwhelming, and it's almost like the reverse of what I've been used to. But, knowing that you still try to keep it as human and as tactile and as present as you can. But it's difficult with, shooting in a vacuum. Oftentimes people aren't even shooting in the same shot with each other. And having been through it and being able to have the joy of feeling the texture of a set and seeing an actor dealing in that light and set, it's something that stays with you. So I try to keep that spirit.